Blimey, mate, let's go on a grammar adventure to England. Let's learn some more British grammar. Here's what we're going to cover in my class today. Today we're going to look at both the second conditional and the third conditional. Let's look at the second conditional first. We use the second conditional to describe a hypothetical situation that is currently not true but could be true if certain conditions were met. An example: if I were rich, I would travel the world. Note, in this sentence the speaker is not actually rich but is expressing a hypothetical scenario. Let's take a look at some different forms we can use for the second conditional. This is the structure for the affirmative form. If, then the subject, then the simple past, followed by subject, would, and finally the base form of the verb. On to the negative form. We have if, subject, simple past, subject, would not, and finally the base form. And the question form. If, subject, simple past, would, subject, base form of the verb. Here are some examples. First, an affirmative sentence. If I had more time, I would go on vacation. Now a negative example. If she didn't have to work tomorrow, she wouldn't stay up so late. And an example of a question. If you won the lottery, would you quit your job? Now let's look at the third conditional. We use the third conditional to describe a hypothetical situation that is not true and cannot be made true because it relates to the past. It is formed by using the past perfect tense of the auxiliary verb have, had, with the past participle of the main verb. For example, if I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. In this sentence, the speaker did not study hard enough in the past and therefore did not pass the exam. Let's take a look at some different forms we can use for the third conditional. The structure of the affirmative form is if, then the subject, then the past perfect, followed by the subject, would have, and finally the past participle of the verb. The negative form: if, subject, past perfect, subject, would not have, finally the past participle of the verb. And the question form: if, then the subject, then the past perfect, then would, subject, have, and finally the past participle of the verb. An example of an affirmative sentence in the third conditional: if I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. A negative example: if they hadn't missed the train, they wouldn't have been late. And an example of a question: if you had known the truth, would you have still made the same decision? Mate, take a note of this. Both conditional, second and third, are often used in conditional sentences, which are sentences that express a condition and its consequence. They are also used to express regrets, suggestions, and hypothetical situations in storytelling. Okay, fantastic job. Now let's try with some British example sentences. If I were to move to England, I would want to learn how to speak with a proper British accent. If I had studied English harder when I was younger, I would have been able to understand more of the local expressions during my trip to England. Fantastic job, mate! Cheerio and see you next class!